amount of cancellations thus far. Jim, last night, a lot happened. I assumed that you learned something as the studious college basketball fan analyst that you are. Tell us.
Yeah, well, Matt, I'm hoping this takeaway doesn't get lost into the void because per our chat mob, no one can hear us, which is an issue.
Yes.
Hoping to get that corrected if possible. We're back per chat. Okay. My takeaway is that shot blockers matter. Shot blockers matter, Matthew. Marcus Bingham out for Michigan State, and High Point hung with them the whole way, scored almost at will, seemingly, against what is usually a mega stout defense. And then the other end of the spectrum, Walker Kessler, holy cow, 11 blocks against LSU, just completely dominated the paint.
Tripped up, yeah.
No, he's one rebound short, Matthew, unfortunately.
Oh, actually, I think they stat corrected it. I saw a notification.
They
so
did.
I think it officially counts as a tripped up there.
Well, there's probably like a tip out that, wasn't really a rebound. But then I guess, one more piece of evidence that Duren out for Memphis, one of the 20 best shot blockers in the country, and they couldn't stop Tulane at all, couldn't stop a nosebleed. So shot blockers matter, Kai. That's my takeaway.
They sure do, Jim. And my takeaway is going to be a little SEC. 2 huge games yesterday, obviously. One, Tennessee missing arguably its 2 best players in Fulkerson and Chandler. Still kind of controlled the game against Alabama. That's concerning if you're a Tide fan. Alabama covered late for those who got the early numbers. Didn't cover the closing line, which got up to a ridiculous 7 points.
That's crazy.
Yikes. Crazy. Other game, how about Auburn, guys? Showing up. Odds makers were correct in opening that a couple points higher than what Kim Pom said. Our friend Eric Haslam, his site Haslametrics, now has Auburn at number 2 in the country. And frankly, they might be that good. I see no flaws with this team. And Devin Cambridge didn't even play. Yeah, Auburn's amazing. The SEC is awesome. That's my takeaway.
Vintage Flanagan. Flanagan looked really good last night. That's scary for other SEC teams.
Mm-hmm. Terrifying. Guys, I don't think it's far-fetched to say that this Auburn team could get to the level of the Harper, Bryce Brown Final Four squad. I think they have that much firepower.
That was like a 5 seed. That team,
right? Exactly. That really got hot late. This team is already outpacing that team at this point in the season. I mean, it's gonna be tough to keep improving at that trajectory that we saw that Final Four team do. But man, with the talent they have, the depth, just like how they fit, so many different weapons they can throw at you. They can beat you in multiple ways. Very impressive. Well done, Mr. Pearl. My takeaway is a damning sign for teams such as Western Michigan, a loser for me and all those who decided to follow me. And as Jim is so astutely pointing to, the upside down Missouri Tigers. It was a dog's paradise last night. If you were a large underdog on the road, even the William & Mary's at home somehow beat Hofstra. I mean, just a lot of weird stuff happened. So if you didn't kind of fall into that trend, that headwind, you just may not be very good. Western Michigan, I unfortunately picked the wrong bad MAC team to back. Central Michigan was the right one to take. And Mizzou is still Mizzou. Without further ado, let's continue into the outline. Kind of a fun little showdown here in Florida to start us off. We have UCF hosting Michigan. And I'll just say this, Jim, this line stinks.
You think so?
I kind of think it does. Just I specifically the early line movement. It opened at 4.5, short favored, and some folks started to hop in on the Knights. And it's Jimmy, actually, you've been there, so you can speak to the home crowd there. It's kind of a weird, tough place to go into. UCF has some high upside. I know you've been in Sun Dome and USF.
South Florida, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The Yingling Center, whatever they're calling it these days.
The Yingling Center. Yeah. Well, we'll have to add UCF to our bucket list of possible arenas. But this is a short spread. Michigan, they've had some struggles, we know, but I'm inclined to lay 3 here on the road. Why am I out of my mind here?
I have no strong take in the side either way, Matt. I made this right about 3, so it's hard for me to push anybody either way. The UCF's gotten a lot of hype because of everybody they brought back. It's like, oh, they've got their top 9 scorers on a per game basis. They're going to be awesome. But this is why they got Mbake Jong from the portal. They were not content with what they had. They needed a center, a rim protector. They need somebody to battle Dickinson, and that's going to be massive for them here. Dickinson's been awesome lately. I know Kai's got a couple stats on my dude Hunter, but he's been terrific. They're finally really playing through him more. I thought early on they were not sure what they wanted to do offensively. The thing is, Matt, I'm worried about Michigan's point guard situation. They don't know what they're doing there. Frankie Collins is playing a lot more. Devontae Jones hasn't fit into the system. I don't know. I'm staying away from both these teams on a side perspective. Maybe I'll lean towards the over because of how fast UCF wants to play. But Kai, I don't have a take on the biggest game of the day. It sucks.
This is a dangerous opponent for Michigan, and I totally agree with the line movement. I was almost on UCF Absolutely. This is one of those teams that plays their competition, UCF. There's a few of these out there, whether it's bad or good, they play up or down to their competition. And UCF has the athleticism that most teams at their level in the American don't to compete with a team like Michigan. Tons of athletes on this team. Now, they're not great shooters, and Michigan's interior can certainly stop what UCF's trying to do on offense, get to the rim, score inside. The matchup probably leans towards Michigan, Matt. The fact that UCF's at home and this number, I think, is there's a little bit of value still in the Knights. I'm leaning towards UCF.
Yeah, you're right, Kai. UCF's good is really good, right? Just the talent they have. They have multiple elite shot makers, guys that can go absolutely bonkers. You get an out-of-body experience from, either, pick your poison there in the backcourt. And then you have CJ Walker, the Oregon transfer, who's mega talented, swarming on the wings, can kind of negate that wing presence that Michigan has. Jim, you're right. Michigan's been a little bit in disarray lately, but I think this is kind of a spot to hop in on the Wolverines. I think we've kind of slept on them a little bit. Obviously, they've given us reason to, but I'm not ready to write this team off as a problem child quite yet. And they're going on the road to UCF, a game that will probably stack up as a Q2 win. So this is not like a sleepy spot.
It's Q1.
Q1. Probably Q1 at this
like
point.
Top 50, and it's true road.
The top 50 now or not? Okay, yeah. Well, there you go. Right. I mean, Michigan's a smart team. They know that. They're not going to come in lethargic thinking they're going to just waltz over this team. I like the Wolverines. Call me a spinny, as we say, the obvious favorites, but that's where I'm at. So,
you're spinny, Matt. You're spinny.
Spinny, Matt. Fortunately, today is not spinny Saturday, so I can't spin the old propeller here. But
we'll have that on New Year's Day. Spinny Saturday, New Year's Day. What a festival game.
That might be our worst or best show of the year, depending on how you what your rubric is of show quality. All right, now we get some fun mid-major bouts. We're going to Summit action, Kai. North Dakota State hosting South Dakota State. Another game with some, in my opinion, precarious line movement to start. Opened up at South Dakota State as a short favorite on the road, -4. Some big Bison money coming in early. I think people are starting to buy into the recent version of this Bison team. A little bit trying to find out who they were to start. Got some key guys back late. We've seen them play better. I guess it comes down to this. Looking back at what we thought these two teams were preseason, does this spread make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I would have made this line about this preseason. These games are always close between these two teams. So yeah. You kind of throw out the number a little bit here and you say, all right, this is an enormous rivalry, arguably the two best teams in the Summit. It's going to play close. It's at North Dakota State, closer when they play there, obviously. North Dakota State's one of the highest continuity teams in the country. They brought some of the most guys back from last year's squad, a team that definitely expects to compete for the Summit title. And you're right, Matt, after getting Sam Griesel back, NDSU's been really good this season. I think they can hang here. And Noah Friedel, South Dakota State's leading scorer, his status is still unknown. That could be a huge factor in this game. I worry a little bit about South Dakota State's ability to just kind of score at will. But I think North Dakota State hangs, maybe even wins this game outright.
Kai, you mentioned my boy Diesel Griesel.
Yeah,
they're dumping Diesel Griesel into the engine, and suddenly North Dakota State is really, really good. Definitely got undervalued when he was out. Now that he's back, just a different team with him creating and just a big slasher that makes other players better. They need to control the tempo, Matt, because if you get in a track meet with South Dakota State, that's a little bit concerning. Too many weapons for the Jack Bunnies. But as Kai mentioned, Friedel's status is monstrous too. If he's not out there, that's a lethal shooter that you have to deal without. So yeah, I'm leaning towards North Dakota State, but at 2, I don't want to recommend it. I liked having that 3, the full 1 basket leeway. So at this point, stay away.
Yeah, just on a price perspective, and maybe I overreacted to some of those immense efforts we saw from the Jack Bunnies early on, but I actually kind of lean Sodak State at the current price. But just a general anecdote about this Bison team, just looking back the last few seasons within the context of the Summit, they're the one team that always plays defense, and they tend to be undervalued because everyone else in this conference loves to score, but they kind of ignore the other end of the floor. And the Bison, I think, are a great buy low in conference play because of that reason. I'm just not backing them tonight because I respect the Jack Bunnies too much here, especially
UMKC is kind of that same way.
Yeah, UMKC is kind of
what? This team's
right.
resisting our attack. What's happening? What is this?
Well, I think that's a great example. Like they don't have much offense, but they just play good defense, and you see them be competitive. I think that's the recipe of success in this league that basically ignores one side of the ball. We're gonna head a little farther out west here to the marquee power conference showdown of the night. Oregon State, what a team! The old Beavers, Jim. They're gonna host Utah tonight. And we like Utah. We like Craig Smith. I know there's been some personnel issues for the Utes so far. Craig Smith did confirm that Braden Carlson, their interior anchor fortress on both sides, will be available. He's out of protocol. Sounds like they'll have their full collection of players. But I mean, we should probably just caveat every time we go through a matchup on this outline, you don't really know who's showing up anytime. I don't know your thoughts on this game. It just feels like it's too short for Utah.
Yeah, it's especially true the first game after Christmas where everybody went home and they come back and everybody gets tested. They're like every game, there's one or two guys out, usually on both sides, but sometimes it's leaned one way. But yeah, it sounds like Utah's pretty close to full strength. And I like the Utes, Matt. It's unfortunately, it got up over 4, I believe. I'm trying to get the updated price right now on BetRivers as I speak. But I just think they're too good. Oregon State plays a ton of zone. Utah hasn't seen a lot of it, but they have more shooting than I realized. I was looking down their stat page, and it's like, all right, Jenkins is the go-to guy, but they've got a couple other guys that can knock in shots. Worcester and Stefanovic.
Oh, Worcester, baby.
So yeah, I really like this Utah team now that they're closer to full strength. I was high on them preseason, and Oregon State, man, they're lost right now, lost in the wilderness. Kai, can you find them with your Gilligan's Island hat?
The only angle I can think of for the Beavers is, all right, you're 0-2 in Pac-12 play. You're desperate for a win. This is quote unquote winnable. I don't think they will, but it's winnable against a Utah team that isn't one of the top 4 teams in this league, probably. But I like Craig Smith too much. With Carlson supposedly back, that's a Utah bet or nothing for me. At -4.5, I'll probably just stay away and not watch this game either, Matt.
Yeah, I'm looking at Oregon State's last game against Nicholls State, a team who we've seen be extremely feisty as a dog. And unlike a lot of the other better power conference teams that Nicholls has played, I mean, Oregon State kind of handled them. I think you look at Maurice Kalu, his second game back, one of the guys that really stuck out in that late March run last season. They built their identity on the front court. It's been banged up this season. I have a feeling, just a little hunch, that Oregon State's going to be competitive later in the year. Maybe we start to see that upswing here, but no strong feeling for me either way.
I'm gonna excuse Nicholls for that crazy travel out west, and
tough
Devontae Carter
yes.
in that one either.
And no Carter. Important. Yeah, that's right. These central to east to west travels have now kind of been sort of just wave white flag the second you step on the floor. We're staying out west. Montana State hosting Weber State. We're now in the Big Sky country. My goodness, Weber, Jim, what has happened to this team? It's conference play. I mean, Is this the turnaround, or is it just kind of like broken?
Yeah, this is the turnaround. Weber State, best bet, +2. I have some reasoning for it. So Cody Carlson's back in the rotation. I don't know. I read their actual beat writer said he was just out of the rotation. He wasn't hurt, which made no sense because the guy they're replacing him with was awful, Alex too. But the important thing is Weber's really struggle when they step up in class. But there's some numbers behind that are a little crazy. They played 4 games where they got blown out: Washington State, Fresno, BYU, Utah State. In those 4, Weber shot 26% from deep. The opponent shot 55% from deep. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I know some of that you want to make opponents uncomfortable and take away the shots, but the volume was essentially equal. Like, Weber took 96, the opponents took 101. Everyone's getting blown out if opponents are shooting 55% from 3 against you. That's just the way it goes, especially if you're playing better competition. Back into the Big Sky, I still think Weber's the best team. Lethal 1 through 4, a lot of creators. I think that shows up. They did sweep Montana State twice last year, but that was at Weber. So, give or take whether that matters. Either way, Kai, I like the Wildcats +2. I think they get it done.
Yeah, I like them too, Jim. And Weber is a Big Sky power. As we've seen, they're not a country power. They're not a nation power. They're a Big Sky power. I think they get back on track here at Montana State. Bello, always a concern for if you're playing Montana State, but Weber has some size, especially if Carlson's going to be fully back into the fold. Not as worried about that.
Yeah, we don't know if Dante Bassett exists, but who knows?
Apparently not. And I've completely written him off. I don't know why he's not getting time. Plenty of bodies for Weber to stick on Bishop, who's been, frankly, very, very good for Montana State. 5'8" point guard. I do like Weber as a dog as well, Jim. +2 seems like a pretty good number.
Yeah. Also lean towards the over, Matthew.
Yes, agree. I think there's lots of points in this game. Seen Montana State struggle to score at times, but Weber's defense doesn't offer a lot of resistance, and I think they can seduce them into a track meet. Let's continue. Oh, wait, pause. Chat mob. Wow, that happened quickly. I feel like there's a ton of chatter flying in. I have not appointed a czar, but I will assume one of you took the reins. Jimbo, start us off.
All right, Matt, going back to you for a CUSA battle. Ethan Sachs asking about Old Dominion headed to Florida International. I don't know, man. You got anything with these? This is a weird stylistic matchup where FIU likes to press. ODU is more of a half-court team.
Yeah, I actually like the over here. I think the faster team speeds up ODU. We've seen them get into willingly accept faster paced games a couple times this season. So stronger to take on the total than the side. Just to note, though, that Old Dom did get Charles Smith back, a key SMU transfer that was starting earlier in the year. Kai, Jeff Jones back there. I think ODU is a little bit of a buy low, too. Had a really, really tough non-con there when he was out, but I think they're competent.
They're all right. I don't know. I don't have much to take in this one.
I'll turn my comment to more of a shruggy competent.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like both of these teams on a relative basis.
Yeah, I do too. Agree with that.
Since I'm high on both, I don't really have an advantage on the market. Okay. Just for the record, we have 2 Sunbelt games that are being saved for best bets. So Matt Akers, the ULM Coastal game will be hit later, and Austin Rayleigh, also South Alabama at UT Arlington. Those will be coming in best bets. So Kai, you get from Ryan Abramowitz a Big Sky matchup. Sacramento State at Southern Utah. This is maybe the league favorite. Southern Utah, big home favorite. We saw some of them struggle yesterday, as Matt alluded to in the takeaway section. Do you think this is another instance of that?
Yeah. First game, huge dogs, conference play, tend to lean towards the dog, especially after yesterday's performance. Now, those trends have nothing to do with this game. I want to be clear that trends do not affect a game by game basis, but there's something to be said about a new season in conference play, a huge dog on the road. Motivation is very, very high. I think Sacramento State is a terrible team, but 15 points seems like a little bit too much. I'd probably lean their way, not taking it officially, but I'd probably lean their way at 15.
I agree.
This interim coach is running for Sac State a lot faster than last year's team. Maybe concerning against a really transition beastly Southern Utah team. I don't know. We'll see. But kind of with Kai, lean towards taking the points for the road dog. All right, Matt, we do have a Sunbelt game we can discuss here. That would be for Matt Arch, the Cajuns heading to Appalachian State.
My Cajuns?
Your Cajuns. A team that I think a lot of people were high on preseason, given the infusion of talent.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Bob Marlin, the coach, is not traveling with the team due to COVID protocol, but we might have Theo Akuba back, the big reigning defensive player of the year in the Sunbelt. What do you think here? Do the Cajuns get it done, or do you trust Dustin Kearns at home?
Love Kearns. I like this App State team. They are small, and I think that's a spot where Louisiana's size and length can potentially exploit. However, it's just been kind of a minefield with the roster game-to-game lineups and who plays and who doesn't for Louisiana. You throw in the COVID thing. Marlin's already in protocol. I got to think 1 or 2 other guys are probably out. They are deep. It's a team that I think you can bet safely, even with the risk of a couple guys being out. But I do respect App State too much to back it here, Jim, with those risks on the Louisiana side.
Yep, I'm with you. Kai, out west, Big West game, Cal State Fullerton headed to Cal State Bakersfield. We almost had a head-to-head here, Kai, but then I realized I was misevaluating my position on this game. So which side are you on here? Are you back in the blue court Bakersfield boys?
Yeah, I'm leaning their way, Jim. It's a pick. Okay, who wins outright? Obviously, Bakersfield has not looked good this season so far. Again, you're getting conference play. You're at home. I think these two teams are pretty even. I wouldn't say Fullerton is 2 or 3 points better on a neutral. I don't know. So I lean towards Bakersfield.
Yeah, also on shake and bake.
Yeah, Fullerton's like a dominant, or I'm sorry, they're a big time downhill driving team, and Bakersfield's a dominant rim defense. Like they're really hard to score at inside. So matchup wise, definitely a little bit of an angle for Bakersfield there. All right, Matt, let's go back to the outline. I will continue accumulating chat mob questions. Hot Dog, I see your question. Jim Bean, I see it. We will get to it in the second portion of chat mob.
Let's do it. Yeah, Conference USA kicks off the second stanza of our outline today. Louisiana Tech, one of the preseason perennial favorites in the CUSA. They are hosting Marshall. The Thundering Herd they have escaped me this season, Kai. I've been trailing them a little bit too stubbornly. I probably should have read between the lines when Dan D'Antoni talked about some of their defensive concerns. They cannot stop a nosebleed on the perimeter, and they have some size up front that can mitigate those deficiencies. But man, I watched Toledo run circles around them. Mm-hmm. I think this is kind of short spread, to be honest. I know it's a conference game. I know Marshall's competent. The La Tech's the real deal. I think Lofton, even against Marshall's size, can have his way in there.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but fresh start for Marshall, right? They're coming off 3 embarrassing losses, like embarrassing. They were blown out in the second half by Northern Iowa. Toledo wasn't close. I think they can get it back right in Conference USA. I've said it one time on here or somewhere else. Marshall's flipped the script on how they play this year. They're pounding the paint. They're not shooting threes. They're still running. They're not shooting threes as much as they used to. Maybe that's part of their offensive issues. They just don't have as many shooters as they have in the past.
Yeah, they don't.
But they have size, and that's good against Kenneth Lofton, who is incredible for Louisiana Tech. I think they have enough bodies to at least slow them down here. La Tech is for sure the better team thus far, but the spread at 6 feels a little bit high. I'm leaning towards Marshall.
Yeah, I was surprised. I kind of thought I'd end up closer to a Marshall bet here, but the offensive deficiencies with the guards and the shooting have scared me away. Matt, your boy Anna Chili Killen is monstrous. I made the point in takeaways how important shot blockers are, and I looked up the post defense numbers for Marshall and Oak, as we shall call him. Professor Oak. Is it too nerdy to call him Professor?
No, we can call him Professor Oak. I like that.
All right, good. That's his new nickname. He's in the 90th percentile as a post defender. Byers is in the 1st. Miladinovich is in the 3rd. Like, they're terrible. So they need Professor Oak out there against Lofton. They need to double correctly, come off the right guys. So I'm curious to see how that works out. I think the matchup just favors Louisiana Tech a little bit. My number leans towards Marshall. So I'm conflicted here, Matt. Nothing for me.
Yeah. Why did he only play 17 minutes last game against Toledo? Maybe there's a matchup thing there, but he had 5 blocks, 8 points. He was productive when he was out there.
Yeah, he didn't play till the second half. They just they didn't play until they were down 30. It was so weird.
Maybe it was disciplinary. Yeah, of course, it's fun having that as your best bet, and then having Western Michigan with Beatrice White suddenly not playing last night. Always fun. I agree, Jim. Just to put a bow on the 3, or Kai on your point, 3-point shooting. Darius George, Tavian Kinsey, both of whom shot 40% from 3 last season, are a combined 7 of 55 from bonus land this season. So
7 of 55.
So bad.
The variance monster is doomed to or is bound to provide some late season gifts, I hope, for those 2 herd wings there. Okay, let's go back to the West Coast. Utah Valley is hosting Abilene Christian. This is a whack game. Doesn't really feel like a whack game, but it is.
I'm not used to Abilene being on the main board. It's very
odd.
confusing.
It's just a weird day in general. There's only like 2 extra games, but I like Utah Valley, Jim. That's in a nutshell for me. I think their size can absolutely dominate against the shorter, faster Wildcats, but their pressure is no joke. And if the Utah Valley guards are not ready, they're going to have their lunch eaten in the backcourt.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a rock, paper, scissors thing where each team has clear edges. Like IMAC should dominate the paint in this one, but then there's guard shortages for Utah Valley with no McClanahan, no Harmon. We don't know. Maybe Trey Woodbury debuts for conference play. Mm-hmm. We know he's been whispered as potentially coming back for Utah Valley, but Abilene's guards can put them in the torture chamber with their quickness and their anticipation, defensive pressure. So yeah, this one's tough, Matt. You can kind of make the case for either team in terms of a side. I kind of lean towards Abilene Christian, but I've also bet against Utah Valley a million times this year and been wrong on most of them. So probably a stay away from me in terms of a side, Kai.
Yeah, and I've kind of concluded that Mark Matson's a good coach. Utah Valley.
If you coach in Utah, you're just awesome.
Yeah,
apparently.
Yeah, right.
Utah Valley, this team has no business being as good as they've been. I know IMAC's good, whatever. He's big, but they should not be this good.
No,
they're at home. They have done very, very well in the WAC every single season. This is Abilene Christian's first WAC game ever. I don't know if that plays into factor at all here, but yeah, Jim, you mentioned, and Matt, you mentioned as well, the Abilene guard advantage, number 2 in the country in turnover rate. And if Utah Valley still has guards out of lineup, it's going to be 20, 25 turnovers for this team. That's worrisome. And Abilene Christian is incredibly well coached and an awesome squad. I'm leaning towards them in a -1 point pick spread.
Nothing else to add. I was actually looking at the elevation rankings on KenPom's chart there. I was like, you think Utah Valley is at elevation, and it is, but it's actually one of the lower elevation ranks. Just a valley anecdote for you. Yeah, well, it's got a valley within a mountain, perhaps. I'm sure someone who's watching who lives in Orem is laughing at our ignorance of geography. But hey, that's the fun we like to have on this program. Next up, we're staying
Matt,
West Coast.
There's nothing else you want to add about that game?
Fine. I'm a little bit shocked because I lost the last 9 best bets, but I am on the over. I think both teams score at absolute will here. I used to take in totals, but I got to change it up. You got to go with something different, man. You're not working. You got to make changes, got to adapt, got to be flexible. That's what I'm going to do. Like the over. It's been bet up a little bit. I think 134.5 is the current number. It opened at 132. I think this pace plays faster than the market is indicating, and I think efficiency is high on both ends. So points.
There you go.
As I was saying, we're staying West Coast. Heavy West Coast on the outline today. UC San Diego hosting UC Santa Barbara, Santa Babs, as we like to call them, Mr. McKeon, a team that has been struggling. They lost Ja'Cory McLaughlin coming off that banner year last year. I think they've missed him badly. Their backcourt is a little bit herky-jerky. Obviously, the size up front is strong, but I think that lack of a stabilizing force on the perimeter has really led to their inconsistency.
They've been terrible. Battles with Florida A&M, Idaho State, lost to Pacific. 0 wins against the top 220. This is not even close to the same team we saw last year. The fact that they're rated so highly right now in KenPom is because of the preseason wait. I haven't looked at the Bart Torvik stats, but I guarantee you they're outside of the top 200 currently. But UC San Diego, Tony Rochak, their do everything player, he's been extremely inefficient. We have info in the chat here. There's no fans allowed tonight at UCSD. I think it's a perfect chance for Santa Barbara to get back on track here. They outclass the lesser teams in the Big West year in and year out. I think that starts tonight. So I lean towards Babs. The spreads come down to -3. Be careful. Someone might know something in the COVID world here. Doesn't make sense to me, Jim, why San Diego's taking money. But I'd lean towards Babs -3, all healthy.
Yep, I lean towards Santa Barbara here too, despite the fact that they can make a case as being like potentially the worst shooting team in the entire country in a volume and percentage basis. They just don't have any shooters. But UC San Diego's defense is predicated on taking away the 3-point line. It's like, all right, great. We don't have to take threes. That's fantastic if you're a Gauchos guy. Kai, for the record, UCSB 206th in Bart Torvik without preseason. So we talked a little bit about how conference can be like a fresh start for some of these teams that were terrible. That applies to Santa Barbara too. Like they've been bad. They've struggled to find a rhythm in non-con, but this is a new season for them too. It's not just like the dregs of the world like William and Mary. It is also applicable to somebody like Santa Barbara. I think they win. I think that 3 is too short with, home court not being big. As Kai mentioned though, keep an eye on it because coming down with no crowd, you would think maybe there's somebody missing for the Gauchos.
Yeah. I agree with you guys. I'm leaning the Gauchos as well, but again, the early money is suspicious and I have no choice but to respect it, given how prophetic those moves have been in terms of identifying key guys out that have been undetected the day before. So keep an eye out there as you always should, and especially the next couple of weeks. All right, last game here on the outline. Chattanooga hosting East Tennessee State. SoCon Till. This is a doozy of a game, Jim. I have a strong take here. The early money sniffed it out. But I'll let you tell the folks where I believe you
take it.
agree with me.
I want to hear you. I want to hear your strong take.
Here's
I think
you
feel stronger than I do.
I do, and here's why. Nuga is a large favorite, just doesn't have the same juice that they do as a near pick or dog. They play slow. Yes, they have 2 elite shot makers. I just don't think they have that runaway potential, especially against an East Tennessee State team that is mega talented, athletic. My one concern here, though, Jim, for the Bucks is they're playing smaller now because they're down their 2 key centers. They lost, I believe, Silas Adeki to injury, or
no,
he had a business opportunity.
He has to support his family. He left. He left the program to work. Yeah.
And then Charlie Weber, their backup center, got hurt, so they're basically up against it inside. Very concerning. It's D'Souza up front there, but I love the wing speed and versatility. I think this game plays fast. It's gonna be high scoring. The Bucks keep it close and they cover.
Yeah, I think both teams have trouble stopping one another.
Right.
The Brewer brothers, I think, can get theirs. Even Sloan. Chattanooga lacks like the big athletic wings, kind of stopper type archetype of player, and that's big for ETSU. Ty Brewer especially, I think, going to go off here. So I lean towards East Tennessee State as well, Matt. Also the dog in the conference opener angle, I think, is relevant. So Kai, as much as I love Chattanooga and I'm scared of D'Souza going for 25 and 12, I'm leaning towards ETSU.
Yeah, I love Chattanooga as a team as well, but I like ETSU too, man. I still think they're a little underrated. I think Desmond Oliver's done a fine job so far. Maybe a couple hiccups as of late. It's just too high of a spread, I think, for what the possession count's going to play to. KenPom projects 62 possessions. It might not even get to 60. Both these teams play incredibly slow.
Yeah, you and Matt with a little clash.
Yeah, I kind of think it's going to go faster. I don't know why. I'm probably still Duke Kai to your point when Desmond Alvin told us he's going to play really fast this preseason, and he just absolutely hasn't.
Just lied through his teeth on that one.
Yeah,
what the hell,
he's
man?
played incredibly slow. No fancy angles here, really. The personnel concerns are concerning. And 7, I liked 8 better, obviously. But I'm leaning towards ETSU in a low possession game.
I mean, I guess if it's low possession, it's probably better for me on the dog. But I do think, ETSU, they are streaky. They don't always take the best shots, but they have some premier shot makers. When they're hot, they are white hot. We'll see how this one plays out. I just think it's a little too
good point in the chat. This is a big rivalry as well.
Yes, it is.
Usually play closer.
Milf. Man, I love football.
Our
God bless football, and I'll just leave that right there, and we'll go right to chat mob part 2, Jim, and let's get into it.
Okay, Matt, you get another Sunbelt question. Jim Bean and Pete both asked about Troy, Texas State, whether Troy could hang around. I think Pete was originally the first person to make this point to me about how you need 2 different ratings with Texas State. Like when they play power competition, they get murdered. But in Sunbelt play, they're really dominant with their defense, the way they suffocate teams in the half court. Troy's lineup is kind of whack-a-mole. We don't know if Duke Miles is ever going to play. He's in and out. So what do you think here?
I'll be honest, this is probably my weakest opinion of any game in the slate. So you should have pawned this one over to Kai. I guess I lean Texas State, but as a large favorite, I'm not excited to get on that train.
Yeah, that's about where I land. Kai, any gems for the people?
I'm scared to fade Texas State in Sunbelt play until I see what type of team they're going to be.
Yeah. All right, Kai, you get one that I do think you have an opinion on. Hot Dog and a couple others asked about Green Bay.
Hot diggity.
Green Bay at Northern Kentucky in the horizon. Yep. Green Bay has taken some money as a dog. NKU struggled a little bit this year, I would say, but do they right the ship now that league play has started?
I tend to think so. And spread got down to 7.5, made me worried that someone knows something about NKU. That could still be the case. Watch Faulkner be out of the lineup unexpectedly due to COVID, and someone knows it, because I don't see why Green Bay would take money in this game. You could use the same pace factor. Green Bay plays extremely slow. It could be extremely low possession. I'm just not a believer in Green Bay, and I think this is a good opportunity for Northern Kentucky to get back on track. I think they're one of the better teams in the horizon still. So I lean towards Northern Kentucky as an 8-point favorite.
I co-sign Kai's take. Also, Kai, we've been bet back up to 8.5. So I think we were just really sharp and hopped in at the right number.
And I've been fading Northern Kentucky all year. So I'm okay with taking this game here.
It's a good angle.
Stieber's been out for Green Bay too. And he kind of matters as their point guard, ball mover, best passer. Maybe he'll be back for conference play. All right. There are a couple. Matt, I'm going to save the second one for you. Kai, you get Grand Canyon hosting Chicago State. Low total, and the 120 is for a 20-point spread.
Yeah.
Can Chicago State score enough to cover that?
I kind of lean Grand Canyon. I kind of think they pound them. Yeah. I'm sorry, Chicago State. I'm not betting it, but that's my feelings.
I'm stuck on the I think they can get to 55 points, and that's probably a cover in this one.
Yeah.
Chicago State's been not as bad this year as they've been.
No, they've been awesome. Good job, Chicago State.
Relatively. All right, Matt, I think you and I align on this game, so I will let you take it first, and then I will nod in agreement from Jim Bean. UTEP at UAB. What do you got?
Fellas, get them up.
That's stupid.
Hang loose and mine Cole, I guess. Yeah, I love UTEP here. It's been bet down, probably because I dropped my mortgage on it this morning. Second game back for our guy, Mr. Boom. And I think we're seeing UTEP finally get healthier. And in Joe Golding, I trust. It's that simple. I think this is way too big for a conference game.
Yeah, hopefully they can handle the depth and the pressure. The food poisoning should be gone for UTEP. That was the issue in their little Sun Bowl invitational thing. 12 points, I think, is just too many, Matt. I still like UTEP here. This was close to my best bet for today. So
I agree.
All right, Kai, in the Summit,
yes.
Denver is headed to Oral Roberts. Man, Denver's been a lot more competent this year. Turns out firing Rodney Billups was the smart decision. But Oral Bob's been really good against the spread for us. I know Matt and I have won some money on them, but Kai, big favorite, start a conference. Denver slows the pace. I don't know, man.
Yeah, but Oral Roberts, I think, is a team that's going to start playing extremely well in Summit play. And Denver hasn't been bad. Denver's been good this season, relatively speaking, to their level. So there's no clean slate for Denver. They're let's try to keep it going. Whereas Oral Roberts, I think, hasn't shown us their top gear yet. And I think this is a perfect opponent to do it. So I'm leaning towards Oral Roberts.
All right. Yep. I lean that way too, but I'm cautious. I'm scared of Kai. I know you mentioned trends don't affect individual games, but I'm still scared of like the hyper motivation for the dog on the road.
It's a fallacy, Jim. It's a fallacy.
Fallacy indeed. All right, Matt, if you have any way to sort out what's going on in Milwaukee at Wright State, I'd like to hear it. Milwaukee, definitely a punching bag for us right now with the way Pat Baldwin Sr. is coaching. They were missing Josh Thomas and Pat Baldwin Jr. before Christmas due to COVID. Maybe guessing they're back, but then on the other side, Wright State not going to have Nagy. He's not traveling. And then 4 people in the program. So it could be like support staff, could be assistants, could be players, could be key players. We don't know. What do you think?
Wright State may have turned the corner. Although that when at NC State certainly has not aged too well, given NC State's recent debacles. So you kind of have to contextualize that. Wisconsin, Milwaukee, I mean, that's just a team I am looking to fade based on what I saw preseason. Now it's at the point now they might just be undervalued with the talent they have. Like, how bad can a team with Josh Thomas and Golston and a freaking lottery pick be? But today, you're right. Like the COVID protocol thing, like, there's no reason to jump on either side here. Just stay away. Learn something maybe.
This would be a lineup check for me. I want to bet Wright State here if they're close to full strength. And if Baldwin Jr.'s out, then it's like, yeah, I'm hopping on the Raiders. Kai, in the A10, a game that I'm looking to potentially punch back against the market, surprisingly, Fordham headed to LaSalle. LaSalle, though, does have the potential help of a chemistry boost from Sharif Kenny transferring. We've seen that help some teams out in the college basketball world when they get a guy out of the locker room. Anything for you on this one?
I was leaning LaSalle at 1.5, but I am staying full away at 3. Fordham might be better than them. And that's hard to
that's the crazy part.
That's hard to say. I won't go as far in saying that emphatically right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they won.
I'm on the Explorers. So Jim, feel free to punch back against me because I think Fordham has continuously surprised us this season and they've shown no signs of slowing down really.
Yeah, preseason, filtering out preseason at Bart, Fordham is 100 spots higher than LaSalle. 100
that's
spots.
Wild. That's wild.
Yeah. So that's something to keep an eye on. Matt, keeping it in the A10 though, St. Joe's team that has definitely impressed us early. They've been better. They're actually playing defense. Wow, what a concept. They are headed to Richmond. This is another one, Matt, where my number leans towards the big home favorite, but I'm a little spooked that I'm too low on St. Joe's and the old big dog to start conference play here.
Yeah, and for that reason, I don't really have a strong take on the side. I just like the way Richmond's trending right now. I think they're going to go on a little mini under the radar run through the A10 and quietly climb back into at-large consideration, even though they kind of dug themselves a little bit of a hole at the non-con there. Jim, you mentioned the defense St. Joe's playing. I kind of like the under here. I think the obvious narrative is, both teams score, they can destroy each other on offense. St. Joe's defending, and I think Richmond defends better than people think. Better than people think.
Yeah, better than people. That's a fair way to put it. They're not. They're certainly not a juggernaut on that end. But, all right, I think the last question here, Kai, is from Jim Bean. Brown at Maryland.
Oh boy.
Both these teams have played since Christmas, which is very rare for a game right now. Brown lost at Syracuse. Maryland knocked off Lehigh at home. What do you think? Do the Bears hang around?
Yeah, just a gut lean towards Brown. Not a lot of travel. Big double-digit spread. I don't trust Danny Manning. I think Brown can cover 12.
Yeah, Manning started. He has some quotes about how like our new identity is pounding the paint.
Great,
and that's where Brown's defense totally excels. So I would definitely lean towards
Danny Manning. Let's go backwards against analytics.
Well, but if you get good shots, it's okay. But
no, not Danny Manning.
Matt, you're sneaking in the under lean there.
Yeah, the under. Got lucky to hit that against Lehigh, but I think the recalibration of Maryland's offense, especially without Fat. You take Fats Russell out of that team, I think they want to go inside even more. Maybe it slows down the pace.
I think he might be playing. I think it's just a bang knees thing, kind of a freak, but he's going to, I think he's going to be back for this one.
I hope he doesn't.
Yeah.
I hope he's healthy, but I hope he doesn't play in this game.
Probably benefits Maryland if he's not launching shots and taking away from that paint identity. All right, guys, that wraps up Chat Mob. Remember, the feed is shifting to exclusively the Field of 68 Best Bets on YouTube. So subscribe to that one. Hit the like button, as has been mentioned in the chat. Matt, I guess we get to Best Bets. Oh, it looks like Kai is leading off.
Yeah, I'm going to shuffle it to Mr. McKeon. Recap it, sir.
Yeah, first of all, though, I'm going to second Pete's comment in the chat. Every time Matt has a bet or a lean, he has to act out the mascot of the team that he likes.
I'll start doing that. I know it's kind of my new shtick today. Definitely.
My best bet, guys, is Coastal Carolina, -4.5. Sun Belt matchup here. Bloodbath in the boards for Coastal. I don't think Monroe can handle the glass. Also, I'm just not a believer in Monroe. A lot of weird results these last couple of games. I mean, surviving Lamar, Southern Miss, and Northwestern State, 3 games they probably shouldn't have covered, is not impressive to me. They made a huge jump in the analytics by beating Stephen F. Austin on the road. Austin wasn't healthy. It was a weird game for them. I don't think Monroe's is good. So I'm taking Coastal Carolina -4.5.
I was trying to do like a rooster act out. Like what is a Chanticleer?
It's a Chanticleer.
Like,
I don't know.
It's a type of rooster, I think. It's
yeah, baby.
Yeah, something like that.
I lean that way.
I lean that way.
So,
yeah,
yep.
I agree.
Thanks, guys.
All right, my best bet. I had Weber State +2, and I'm throwing in a second one because I got to get a total in there. I've been having best bet totals like basically every day. So 2 today. The other one is South Alabama, Texas Arlington over. I know I mentioned shot blockers mattering, and UTA has one of the best in the country. And my boy KO, pronouncing his name is an adventure, but
yes, it is.
KO. That's what we call him. I think UTA is going to play a little faster in conference play. Their coach mentioned in the preseason that he wanted to do that, go back to the Scott Cross days. They've been a little bit banged up, and that has hurt. But South Alabama absolutely wants to run. Both teams could be healthier as well, given the week, more than a week off that they've had. So I like the over here, Matt. I think 134.5 was what I last saw it at. Let me make sure. Yeah, 134.5. So two best bets there. Weber State +2 and that over 134.5.
Love it. I'm an overtaker as well here. My first total of the best bets season. How exciting for me. Hopefully it goes well. That's Utah Valley, Abilene Christian. It is 135 currently at BetRivers. I set it at 134.5. So I want that documented on best bets as 134.5. It doesn't matter. It's going to hit 140. Both teams are going to score at will. I think the pace plays a little faster. And we'll all sing Kumbaya. And we'll get a best bet sweep and come back to the Masses Kai on New Year's Day, hungover, tired with hot takes ready to spew, baby.
Perfect. Can you give me a Wolverine / Wildcat act out real quick? Yeah.
I have no idea what that is. But
that's Wolverine. That's the X-Men Wolverine. I get it.
Okay. I don't know why I did like a shocker. That was I need to work on that. Okay, I'll workshop it. As I mentioned, we're off tomorrow. Please subscribe to the right channel, as Jim just mentioned. We'll be back on New Year's Day. We're actually not going to be hungover. I'm not doing anything. So let's stop acting like we have cool plans. I'll be up bright and early and looking at the card probably. But for those of you who want to engage such activities, go for it. And then wake up with us. Until Saturday, take care and good luck this evening.